To waive or not to waive? That is the question. It's Matt here, and in today's video, I want to share with you a little bit about the appraisal waiver. I want to talk to you about what that is and when you might want to use it. But before we jump right in, I want to first talk a little bit about what is an appraisal. An appraisal is a third-party opinion of value. Your lender is going to hire an appraiser to go out to the property. They're going to go to the property, they're going to take measurements, get a sense of the condition, and then they come back to the office and compare it to other recent sales. They can go back 6 months to look at those past sales. And that's important because in a fast-moving market, prices are going up quickly, and what's selling today may be selling for more than homes 6 months ago. So why does the appraisal matter though? Well, first, the lender is using that to determine how much money they're going to loan you. Most people's loan program is based on a loan-to-value ratio. So if you have a conventional loan, many people think that they're putting 20% down, the lender's loaning you 80% of the value. So if you're using financing for your purchase, we're going to put in the contract what's called the third-party financing addendum. It's going to disclose to the seller the terms you're hoping for your financing and create some contingencies around your financing approval. It also creates a contingency around the appraisal. And now, this is good for you as the buyer because it creates protection, but for the seller, it creates some risk because what if the appraisal doesn't meet the value? Now the buyer can back out and walk away. So why might you waive the appraisal? Well, in a competitive market like ours, first you might be competing with cash offers. With the cash offer, there's no lender, there's no appraisal, that's going to be whatever the sales price is. So you might choose to waive the appraisal to make your offer more like cash. But a lot of reason people are waiving the appraisal right now is kind of this idea of put your money where your mouth is. Some people may bid way up. They may say, hey, we're going $100,000 over the list price. But the seller is like, oh, that's great, except they know that if it doesn't appraise for that, they're not getting that extra $100,000. That's where the appraisal waiver comes in. It basically defines up front how any differences between the appraisal and the sales price are going to be handled. In order to use the appraisal waiver, first you need to be using conventional financing. And second, you need to have a good understanding of the cash you have available for this transaction. Okay, so I covered what an appraisal is and why you might want to waive it. How do you do that? Well, we actually had another addendum. The Real Estate Commission created an addendum specifically around appraisals. And in that addendum, it provides 3 options. The first option will be to fully waive the appraisal. You're telling the seller, you're going to get the sales price no matter what. Second option is to partially waive it. In that case, you're telling the seller, we're going to give you the sales price as long as the appraisal is above X amount. And then the last option is creating an additional right to terminate. And in that case, you're saying, hey, if it doesn't appraise for this amount, then we're terminating. That option is not really one that would make sense for most people in a competitive market. Now I want to dig into these 2 waiver options and how do they actually look in real life. So imagine we find a house, it's listed for $500. In order to win, we actually have to bid $550, and we go under contract for a sales price of $550. In this scenario, we're assuming the lender's doing an 80% loan to value. At 80%, they're loaning you $440,000, and that means your down payment is $110,000. Well, let's add on the full appraisal waiver. Well, if we fully waive the appraisal and the appraisal comes back at $550, the math doesn't change, everything's the same. Well, imagine a scenario where maybe the appraisal comes back at the original list price of $500. Well, in this case, the lender's only going to loan you $400,000, and you've told the seller you're going to guarantee they get $550. So your down payment now goes to $150,000, and it's $40,000 more than we started out with. Now, another possible scenario could be that it appraises at $475, so lower than the list price. And in this case, the lender's only going to loan you $380,000, and you're bringing to the table $170,000. So suddenly your cash out of pocket is $60,000 more than when you entered the transaction. So I think the key thing to keep in mind with the full appraisal waiver is you're committing to the seller that regardless of what the lender's appraisal is, they're getting the full price, you're making up the difference. Now I want to break down option 2 if you were to choose a partial waiver. Now, with the full waiver, you're basically protecting the seller. You're telling them they're getting the sales price no matter what. But it comes with like additional risk for you as a buyer. When we go to option 2 and choose this partial waiver, we're basically kind of capping your risk as a buyer. So let's look at how that might play out. Keeping the scenario of the home that was listed for $500,000, we went under contract for $550. Perhaps we say, hey, as long as it's above $500,000, we're in, you're getting the money. So it appraises for $550, the math is the same as before. Even if it comes in low at $500, the math is going to be the same as the scenario as a full appraisal waiver. The lender loans you 80% or $400,000, and you bring $150,000 cash to the table. So a little more than you entered the deal in with, but not a ton. And then let's say though it comes in lower than $500,000. Maybe we hit that $475 mark. Well, now we're back with all the rights you had before. So you could terminate. Probably you're going to choose one of three things. You're going to decide, hey, I really want this house. It's not even worth negotiating. We'll pay the difference. Two, you might say, no, we're terminating. This is a great opportunity. We found another house, or we don't want a house that's not worth X amount. Or three, you might say, let's renegotiate. And that's probably what you'll choose to do in a scenario like this. So that's the fundamentals of how appraisals and appraisal waivers work. I think one of the key takeaways I want you to remember is the appraisal is capping the amount of money that the lender is going to loan you. And because of that, it will affect the later part of the transaction. Having an understanding of these waivers, I think, is really critical. And as a buyer, it's important because you may be assuming some extra risk around your cash later in the transaction. We're going to talk to you specifically about your transaction and give you customized advice, but I would be open-minded to doing this if you can. It's really going to differentiate you from other buyers in the marketplace. Thanks for watching this video, and I look forward to connecting with you in person soon. Take care. Thanks for watching today's video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe below. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And in the meantime, make sure to check out some of our other videos featured on our channel.